situation. Separate the real from the fake. See, we got to get back to love. If we get back to love, then that's when we're going to get back to us.
Seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when you're...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another installment of People Empowerment, where we would strive to change the conditions in our community. Hello out there in TV land. As you probably well guessed, you've been seeing a couple of reruns going on the past few shows because we've been having a few problems at People Empowerment, a few financial problems. Hopefully we're about to address them and keep them correct so that we can continue to get out the word of the people. Today's show is going to be a very important show. Originally, I had guests scheduled to come in today to do a show, but that was changed because of information that I saw this morning on the television, as well as an abundance of emails, phone calls, and text messages that I have received this morning. And all this hoopla has been about the announcement on the news this morning that a gentleman by the name of Bernard, I believe it's Bernard Talbot, his possible running as an opponent to Mayor Brown or for the Democratic nomination for mayor. Mr. Talbot, I believe, is the ex-chief of the FBI here in Buffalo, as well as he was the former head of security for the National Basketball Association. So he comes with a great amount of clout to the situation. The word is that he is still entertaining the idea of running for mayor, and a lot of people have been talking to him about it, and this is actually the second mention I've heard of him coming out. Now, the reason that it's so interesting, it's so hot, is because, like I told you, I received numerous emails, texts, and phone calls about the possibility of this Democratic primary taking place for mayor. And people are very excited about it because some people feel as though they would like to bring the mayor to task on his record and what he's done for the inner city community. So, you know, what I did was I read some of these emails and some of these texts, and took a couple phone calls and realized how important it was not only to bring this out of this possible primary battle, but also about the importance of voting and to put the people's word out, because as you know, this show is called People Empowerment. It was called Black Empowerment initially. Well, initially it was called Self-Made Millionaires. Then it was called Black Empowerment, and then it evolved into People Empowerment a few years ago, because we realized that People Empowerment, that it's about all the people, okay? Not just really even minorities or such, but it's about all of us, all people, and that's why this show is called People Empowerment. So one way that we assist the people in empowering them is to get their messages out. A lot of times, people have messages, but they don't know how to get them out to the public. They don't know how to get them out to their fellow Buffalonians. And that's where I come in, because I am the people's advocate. I am the voice of the people. Yet, I must let you know that I am really not biased, as I like to have both sides of an issue and then let the people compare them. And I just be the conduit, the facilitator of the information that it gets out. So, with that being said, I'd like to read a few of the comments that were shared with me as far as the people go. Now, like I say, as far as these emails and phone calls from Buffalonians, let's see here. From what I hear from city residents is that nothing has changed for them in the last 6 years. I'm talking about the inner city residents. And what they cite here is they cite no jobs, the lack of jobs, no real after-school programs for kids, They talk about the out-of-control youth that are running our streets, hanging out on the corner. They talk about the inner city as far as the Martin Luther King Park still is not finished yet. Summertime and springtime is here again. They say that the poverty continues. They say that it seems that the business community loves the performance of the mayor. The future of big companies making money in Buffalo is bright. They go further to say that for the people who actually live in the city, nothing has really changed for them after electing the city's first black mayor. One city resident went so far as to say he believes that the mayor is an undercover Republican who could care less about African American people. Now, like I said, I can't go along with what they're saying here. I'm just relating to you some statements from the public. Another statement here is, another said that the mayor even isn't a real Buffalonian. He moved here from New York City. He's not from the east side. He just lived on the east side. And they were saying that to say that he doesn't really feel compassion for the inner city residents of Buffalo because he wasn't really born and raised here, just lived here. Again, I don't really know about those facts. I thought he was from here, lived over on Ferry Street, you know. So, but again, I'm just sharing with you word for word the information that I've gotten. Another says, we need a mayor who is interested in helping his own people be a part of the rebuilding of the city. We need him to be as interested as he is in giving big city building contracts to big companies, along with the big tax breaks included in the deals. Now, let's see. Finally, well, it says here also, now the number one complaint that I received from the various people, and I mean, it was I shouldn't say complaint, I should say a concern from people in the city, and a lot of it was from minority citizens, from black citizens, even though, remember, this isn't a black issue or a white issue, it's a city issue. It's about city residents. But what they say is that, you know, they know for a fact there's been over $1.5 billion of work that's been done here in Buffalo, working on the infrastructure of the city as far as schools, buildings, federal buildings, all kind. The work is just incredible, the work that's going on year round in the city, all these construction sites. And what they're saying is the problem that they're having is they don't see people like them there. You know, they don't see, they don't see black faces like theirs. They don't see Hispanic faces. As a matter of fact, they continue to harp that all they see is white faces, if they're young faces, if they're old faces, even if there's women faces, but they continue to talk about the fact that it's not us. So the analogy is that, yes, Buffalo is booming. Yes, business is booming here. Yes, enterprise is thriving here, but the community seems to continue to suffer. They had statistics on the news recently about Buffalo being the third poorest city in the world, in the country. Yet, as the mayor touts his successes, they talk about our education system being horrible, our rate of graduation being deplorable in our city. Yet, our city is thriving as business goes. There's money being made in the city, but the money is leaving the city. It's leaving our community. As you watch the flow of cars come into the city early morning and leave late afternoon, those are the workers for the city coming in and going out. Yet the residents of the city continue to suffer. So, when asked about the last 6 years, the minority residents of the city say that that things have changed in Buffalo, that things are picking up in Buffalo, that Buffalo is no longer under a control board. But they also say, again, that things haven't really changed for them in their communities. Young people still hanging out on the corners. There's still a violence crisis going on in the city. Over the years, people have called for the mayor to call the violence of the youth in the city a state of emergency and move forward as such to address and attack the problem. But as yet that hasn't happened. They also continue to cite more police officers indeed being on the streets and more pay for police officers, but that isn't really curbing the violence. Now, on the other side, on the other hand, you have community activists that have came out in support of the mayor, as you know, as we well know. Mr. Murray from Stop the Violence Coalition was interviewed by Channel 4, I believe, just the other day. And when the mayor announced his candidacy, and he was talking about that he does see progress in Buffalo and that things are happening through the tutelage of the mayor. You know what I mean? But I think those pertain to mostly to his organization and what he's doing and what he's been able to accomplish through pressure with the city for his organization. But again, I would say to you that this situation is not just about any particular organization per se, but this issue is about the people and the people's rights. Now, see, what the people need to understand, and we will be getting more intensely into this, and what people want us to share with other people, they want me to share with other people, is the whole voting and election process and what it's about. You see, what it was created for, what is it about? And what it seems it's about is that the people gather together and they pick a candidate. They pick someone who they believe will represent their best interests. They have dialogue with this person, and this person in exchange tells his constituents that he truly will help them, that he will strive to change the conditions in their community, things he will do. And in our case, it was a double-fold issue because, you know, as I am a black man, and I talk about the whole community, but also sometimes I focus on the black community because the mayor is a black man, like I am, and his community, or the people that are like him of color, cry out to him for help. Now, what they say is that when Jimmy Griffin was in office, he took care of South Buffalo. He had business and jobs in South Buffalo, and he had the South Buffalo residents working. And so they loved Jimmy Griffin. And not only did he have South Buffalo residents working, but he had inner city community people working too. And so there was a lot of work going on with Jimmy Griffin. So even though they said, man, he takes care of his people, he takes care of people for him first and foremost, he still took care of other city residents. Now, when Masiello was in office, they say, well, Masiello sure did take care of North Buffalo, and Masiello sure did take care of Hurdle Street, and the Italians, you know what I mean, took care of his people as he was supposed to. You can't fault him for that, for loving his people and for showing that he loved them in the midst of still continuing to help other people. Now, we know that during his tutelage as the mayor, the city went down. It went down for a lot of different reasons, okay? To the point where they had to bring in a control board, you know, to take over. So, I mean, that says itself about what ultimately happened with that. We've seen people that we thought were great black politicians, councilmen that were in office in the past that were ultimately removed from office because after looking at their performance over years and years, the people decided that enough is enough and they had not done enough for the people. The fact is, people believe that initially when people come into office, they have great dreams and great aspirations of doing the work of the people, but then once they get in office, they become somewhat corrupted, minds change, become demoralized. And so maybe that's true, maybe that's not. We don't know for a fact. All we know what the issues is here. One person said that all these things are going on in these other communities, but what has really gone on in the black community? We've seen a lot of houses being torn down in the black community, but even that and seeing the houses torn down, we even have people contractors coming in from out of the city even doing that work that don't look like us. Still, all this work going on in our community, but none of us are in the community working it. And one person even went so far as to say, and remember, these are not my words, but the words of the people when I'm here to give you the words of the people. And one person even said that it's going around, and it's a rumor around the city, that Mayor Brown is the best mayor that South Buffalo ever had. Now, isn't that something to hear? That our first black mayor is the greatest mayor that South Buffalo ever had. Now, I don't know if they're throwing that in our face or trying to make it funny or what. But I just know the situation is what it is. Again, it goes back to the people elect somebody that they feel is going to address their needs, that is going to go up and do the will of the people. Once they're elected, take office and do the will of the people. What they don't expect is for people to come in and take office and say that they're showing good faith, and then they become unreachable. They become unattainable. They create a situation where it's more like a dictatorship, and some people even say that that there's a situation in Buffalo now that's been created where the leaders and the politicians do not do the will of the people, but they expect the people to do their will. There was a radio program on the other day, and they were talking about have black politicians in the city of Buffalo turn their backs on the black community. Do the black politicians not respond like they respond initially when they're getting elected into office to the concerns of the black community? Now, this is very important. It's not racial. It's not about being racial, but sometimes when I mention the black community, because right here in the inner city is where a big portion of the black community live. So it does affect us. Now, this is one thing that I want you people out there to understand, because I need you to understand this, how important this is, okay? This is a moment in time where we would get to put the powers to be at task. We would call them out at task, and we will be able to say, not only what have you really done for us lately, but what will you do in the future? And are we at the point now where when politicians tell us they're going to do things, we need to get it down in paperwork, what they say they're going to do, so that once the election is over and that they've taken power and that they've taken charge, that they don't lose that? You know what I mean? That they don't forget that they are there to do the will of the people, not the other way around. I will submit to you today, all people out there of all color and all races, that it's no longer about, and this is perfect, the 6 years past has shown you, it's not about color anymore. It's not about race anymore. And I would say to you directly, to black people out there, that we have to stop electing people just because they look like us, okay? Because they walk like us, because they talk like us. Okay? And they sell us dreams, the dreams that we want to hear. We need to have politicians that actually act. Again, the whole process of the election is for us to find candidates that are us, from among us, that want to step forward and take on the task of doing the will of the people, of doing the business of the people. Now, when officials get elected to office, and they've been given a time to prove themselves, then what you do is you go on the record. You go on the record of what's happening. And right now that we see two sides of this mayoral campaign is the one side, people say that in the inner city residents, that the mayor has not done enough for city residents, that city residents have not been employed enough in all the work that's been going on in the city. And when I say city residents, I mean black, Spanish, white, people that live in Buffalo. We are the people that should be getting employed with this work that's coming into Buffalo. How can you say the city's improved when the citizens still cry out? The citizens are still in need. The citizens still scream, help me, help me, help me. And so that's why the people are so excited about the mention of Mr. Talbot as running in the Democratic primary. And so that becomes very important, because you got to understand the Democratic primary is in September. That means that the election actually takes place now and then the next few months, okay? Because now it is time to put the man in charge on notice that the community, members of the community, are not happy. They are not happy with the progress that's been made for them personally. Their situation has not changed. Their plights have not changed, and a lot of situations have got even worse. And they would scream out and say, you look like me, do something for me. They would say, I am tired of driving through this city and looking at all these different job sites and I don't see anybody like me working in them. Or if I do, I see 1 out of 50 or 2 or 3 out of 100. It's not fair. It's not right. How do we change our condition? Now, you know, I tout the, I like the thing that's going on down at the BETC, you know, the Buffalo Employment Training Center. And I like how they're pushing forward down there, how Mr. Thompson is trying to get people employed. But you got to understand the breadth of what that really means. A lot of those jobs are just above minimum wage. Okay? Now, some of them are really decent jobs, but the majority of them are not high-paying wages like the construction that's going on in the city. Now, you know, I had Mike Madigan on during the election cycle last year. And what Mike Madigan said was, if you remember, the Republican candidate for Senate, what he said is that minorities are minorities are losing when it comes to construction in Buffalo because of the Davis-Bacon Act. And the Davis-Bacon Act is the justification why more blacks and minorities aren't on these job sites. And they say that they're not qualified. Well, what qualifies you to be a legitimate construction man and be on one of these sites? And that's some stuff that we're going to do some research on in the future so we can find out what qualifies you. What qualifies all of these young white men that we see on these construction sites? What qualifies them that they're able to work on these construction sites? Is it just the fact that they're hired by a construction company and they're one of the employees of their construction company, one of the apprentices, and so therefore they're allowed to work these jobs making this $30 an hour, $40 an hour, prevailing wage jobs? Those are the jobs that city residents should have. We want to have something to tout about, to be proud about from our mayor. That's what the people say. The people say we want to be a part of the revolution that's going on in the city. The city people say that we want to be a part of what's going on. So what I would tell you now is, you remember, you see that number on the television. I would tell the community that now is the time to act. You can continue your dialogue with me on my website. You can continue your texts and your emails, but I would say to you too now that you can also use that phone number. You can use the phone number. You can call into the show right now, 259-4661. You can call into the show right now, 259-4661, if you don't have a computer to go to, and you can talk to me, and I will answer the phone, and you can tell me your complaint, and I will list it, and I will bring it to the table. I'm not afraid to bring it to the table because I believe the truth will set us free, so I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to speak the real issues, and I'm telling you, there are more issues. But here you have two sides of a situation where the business community says, we love the mayor. He's doing it for us. And then you have the other side where we say, we're the residents of the city, and we are unhappy with what's going on. We are unhappy with the lack of jobs. We are unhappy with the lack of after-school programs. We are unhappy with the lack of training programs for our kids. We are unhappy with things that our kids can't do. We are unhappy of the amount of unemployment that exists with the men. We are unhappy that we see our young men standing on these street corners around these same job sites where they have all these young white men working, and even white women working in our community, doing all this work in our community, in the inner city community, but we aren't there. I mean, it's ridiculous. So we're going to look into this law. We're going to find out what's going on, because remember, our elected officials, every one of them, from the mayor to the council people on down, they are elected to do the will of the people, to do the bidding of the people. And if they do not do the will of the people, the bidding of the people, then if there's no one to step up to contest what's going on with them, then people like you, people like me need to step forward and step up and say, I will be the one. I will be the next one to stand up and say, I'm for the people. I'm behind the people, the rights of the people. So I'm going to tell you now, we're going to use this show as a forum to debate what's going on in Buffalo, what's going on in the world of Buffalo, what's going on with us. What can we hope for? in the next few years. Remember now, so that's why it's very important. We're going to have more on too as we come up, special people on about voting and what's going on, how important it is to be registered to vote, how important it is to vote in the primary. Because what I say to you is, if you have a problem with the issues of how the city is being ran, and now is your time to speak up. Now is your time to say change. Now is your time to even say, well, we want stuff down in writing that you're going to do for us. We want it in writing. No more lip service and then it don't happen. Put it down in writing, and then if you don't do it, we'll be held accountable. So the people today, again, were very, very excited when Mr. Talbert came out and announced, well, his people came out and announced that he might be running for mayor. I want to tell you that the residents, the city of Buffalo, seem to be interested in hearing what you have to say. And they look forward to you coming out in the media and telling the citizens of Buffalo what it is that you have to offer them that will be different from what they have been receiving for the last few years. What will be different? What can you offer us? Is there a way to prove it? We know you have stellar credentials, Mr. Talbert. Okay, who you are, where you came from, and you are another black man. Not that should matter anymore. It shouldn't matter anymore. But what would you be if you were to be elected? The second black mayor, another historic moment. Okay, but the thing is, even when you put it in the context of first black mayor, second black mayor, when you say that, you put it in context, and when you say black, you feel like that this person, just by the recognition of who they are and what they are, will be down an advocate for helping their people to improve their conditions. This is what it's about. Our elected officials are those of us from the community that are picked to do what is best for the community, for the citizens, okay? It's not all about what's best for business in this city. It's about what's best for citizens. It's about how do we change our rating as the third poorest city in the nation? How do we change our rating as a school system that's out of flux, that's out of this world, yet they get over $1 billion a year to run our school system, okay? We need some answers to the questions. We need some answers to our concerns. We need answers from the mayor. We need answers to his possible opponent, and the people say that they look forward to Mr. Talbert running, that they want him to run. They say they may not have the money to back him up and the resources of big business. They may not have the $1 billion to give Mr. Talbert, as reported, that the mayor has in his coffers as far as to run his campaign. But what we need to remember out there is that this campaign in Buffalo will be a referendum on what is right and what is wrong for the people of Buffalo. Okay, it's going to be a referendum on what's been going on in Buffalo and what needs to change. It's going to be about the citizens of Buffalo. It's going to be about the citizens of the community. I'm telling you, people, don't be afraid to speak your voice, because if you don't speak your voice now, then you're going to have to hold your peace and you're going to have to accept whatever happens. Okay, it comes to a point where the only way to get change is to stand up for change, is to come out for change. You see the way those people gathered downtown at City Hall when the gun thing came out, when the NRA people came to Buffalo, crying about guns and whatever. You see hundreds of them, even thousands of them filled the street in front of City Hall to talk about what they believe in. Well, I'm telling you people, it's time for you to get fired up and talk about what you believe in. It's time for you to put the candidates to task. It's time for us to say to Mayor Brown, forget it. We ain't even gonna go about what have you done for us lately. What will you do for us tomorrow? What will you do for us the next day and this day's forward? Can we expect, the citizens of Buffalo, can we expect that you will be more citizen friendly, that you will be more open to us, that we will be able to communicate with you? Okay, without having to go through all these different steps and tasks just to even have a conversation with you, sir. Okay? I can remember the time when it was easy enough to talk to Byron Brown about anything, but now it's so hard to talk to you about anything. So it's very important that you understand that I'm still not out to condemn you. I'm out to say, whatever's happened in the past, you've done great for the business. Please start doing more for the community. And let's hear from the other man. So I'm telling you out there in the community, you got to pay attention to what's going on. This is Nate Boyd from People Empowerment, the People's Advocate, the voice of the people telling you, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.